Have you ever written something in your journal, reread it, and thought, that sounds absolutely nothing like me? Here's a thing that doesn't get talked about enough. Most people's journal entries sound like they're being written for an audience. Not a real audience, an imaginary one. Some future version of themselves who's going to judge the quality of the writing. Or worse, some hypothetical person who might one day read it. And so instead of writing, I'm absolutely furious, and I don't even fully understand why, you write, today was challenging, and I'm processing some complex emotions. And then you close the journal feeling like you just filed a report rather than said anything true. This is the invisible reader problem. And it's the actual reason most people find journaling uncomfortable. Not because they're bad at it, but because they're performing instead of writing. So why does this happen? Because we've been trained our whole lives to write for a reader. School essays, work emails, text to people we want to impress. Everything we write has an audience in mind, and we've calibrated our language to manage how that audience sees us. A journal asks you to do the opposite, write for no one. And that turns out to be genuinely hard, especially at first, because your brain keeps switching into how does this sound mode rather than what is actually true mode. The result is entries that are technically accurate, but emotionally hollow. The words are right, but the voice isn't yours. And you can feel it when you reread it, that slight uncanny valley feeling where you recognize the handwriting but not the person. Honest journaling sounds a lot like how you'd tell a story to your best friend at midnight. Short sentences, incomplete thoughts, words you'd never use in formal writing, repetition, contradiction, starting a sentence and stopping halfway through because you realized something while you were writing it. It doesn't have to be coherent. It doesn't have to conclude anything. It doesn't have to read well. The only job it has to do is be true. So if you find yourself using words like challenging or processing or reflecting on, stop. Ask yourself how you'd actually say this out loud to someone you trust completely. Then write that instead. Here's the most practical thing I can give you. Write in your actual speaking voice. Not your formal voice. Not your careful voice. The voice you use when you're venting to a friend who already knows the context. Which means contractions are fine. Swearing is fine. Run-on sentences are fine. I don't even know where to start with this. Is a completely valid journal entry opener. Today was annoying and I can't explain why, and I'm writing this so I stop thinking about it at 2 a.m. is a completely valid full entry. The grammar doesn't matter. The punctuation doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is whether it sounds like you. This is where a guided journal changes things in a specific way. When you're starting from a blank page, your brain goes into performance mode before you've even written a word, because the blankness feels like a stage. A prompt removes the stage. It replaces, what should I write, with, just answer this. And when you're just answering something, not writing, just answering, the formal voice tends to drop away on its own. The prompts I use aren't the grand, introspective kind that make you feel like you should have more to say than you do. They're small, specific, designed to open a door into how you're actually thinking, rather than how you think you should be thinking. That's the difference between a prompt that helps and one that just adds another thing to perform for. My life, my 20s, is built around that kind of prompt, specific enough to give you somewhere to start, open enough that what comes out is actually yours. It's not asking you to be profound. It's just asking you to show up and be honest. And if you've got a strategy for getting out of your own head when you sit down to write, tell me about it in the comments. I genuinely love to steal it.